So on the bench are the two 5¼ inch floppy drives out of the Model 4P, and I'm going to go ahead and tear this assembly down and just service the drives. Clean, lubricate, that kind of stuff. You've seen me do this in a number of other videos. Lots of other people as well have done this. We did see the A floppy light up when the machine tried to boot. So once we get the machine all the way back together, that's a really good sign. I'm assuming there are four more screws. Okay. So we'll get all of these screws removed. In the previous video, we removed this assembly. It was an interesting mess. Most of the envelope engineering on the Model 4P seems pretty decent. There was two screws that were really difficult to get to remove this assembly. Boy, I'm getting all kinds of little metal filings dropping out as I back these screws out, which is a shame. Capture the screws. The drive should lift out. We can set that aside. It will need to be cleaned. And I see just little bits of shavings on the bench here that I am going to attempt to clean off. The garbage can up against the bench here. Don't need any of those little bitty metal shavings getting into the works here. The first thing is kind of a mechanical look. The drive seems in reasonably good shape. It is a single-sided. I will get in there and do my best to clean the head. It does stiffen up as it moves towards the inner tracks. So we're going to clean and lubricate that. I'm trying to determine if I can safely remove the PC board or if there's any kind of sensors that need to be worried about. If I can get an idea of when this drive was manufactured. Wow, not finding date codes. 29th week, no, that's part number. Wow, I'm really not spotting date codes. That might be one there. No, that wouldn't make sense. Shoot, one of the things I didn't do was keep track of which drive was which. Crap. Always got to do something stupid. So there's a set of jumper links here. It's the same identical two broken, which is interesting. Are they doing this via the drive cable? Yeah, they're doing this via the drive cable. You can see, looking under the drive cable, there's missing pins on the connectors, and those set which drive is which. So, based on location. So that's why the jumpers and the drives are identical, which is fine. It's kind of the typical Tandy way of approaching this, which, like I said, is absolutely fine. So this is the head. At this point, I just want to release the PCB so I can get a better look down in mechanically. And that little black nubby coming off the screwdriver. I'm trying to knock as many of those off the screwdriver as I can. I'm tired of them dropping into everything. We will leave one drive completely assembled as a reference and service the other one and then swap them. Screws are identical. Looks to me like there's the board's floating. Is it floating enough to come out? Not really. Dead spider. Yep, some kind of dead insect. It definitely would need this faceplate to come off. And I'm not sure I see how it's mounted. Oh, I do see how it's mounted. Its mounting screws up underneath the PCB, which does tend to say the PCB can come out in some interesting and convoluted way. Still got a grip on you. It's like there's still a cable attached. There's not a cable underneath. And there's not. Ah. It is able to be finagled up out of there. That sleeve is held in place with a screw, or that shield. There's more of that dead insect. We do have a view down in. Drive is actually really clean overall inside. There's a little bit of dust in some places that I'm just gonna kind of wipe out. Nothing horrible. We will clean the head with a Q-tip. A bit of isopropyl. The head looks really clean, but it's worth doing it while I have this easy access to it. Yeah, I don't see anything coming off of it. Yeah, I'm going to take a little bit and just kind of wipe down these rails. Can't get to all sides of them, but that's okay. There's a little bit of stuff coming off of them. Let that dry for a minute. Actually, that feels like it's moving a little easier after being cleaned, which is interesting. Evaporate for a second, and I'm going to try a different lubrication than I've been using in the past that I think might make a little more sense. You've seen me use WD-40 in previous videos, and that has just been a short term because I haven't had a legitimate oil in place. I've got some 3-in-1 here. It tends to gum up, in my opinion, and you don't want a oil that'll gum up. And I did some research. Oh, there's more metal dust before we do anything else. Let's get that metal dust off of there. And again, that's from removing screws. So they were self-tapping screws, it looked like, which is why, or maybe the threads weren't cut perfect, which is why we're getting that. I just don't want it in the drive. So, did some research looking for oil that wouldn't gum up, that was a light machine oil. And this is what I come up with. Horace Whitlock's Premium Quality Synthetic Clock Oil. And it's not supposed to gum up. It's meant to be used, like it says in clocks, it's just a light machine oil. And I'm going to use it to lubricate up this drive, and we'll see what we get. So, it was a little bit spendy, but I'm okay with that if it'll do the job and do it well. So let's see if we can get a few drops of this out of there. Oh yeah, that's really nice how just very tiny drops coming out. Very happy with that. That oiler works really well. Oops, I just stepped the heads off of the end. Okay, I obviously oiled in places I didn't need to. We will wipe that off. It's not needed there and there. Wasn't needed that far in. I think I'm going to put a little bit more. Yeah, you can get a very tiny amount of it out. A little bitty ring of it, kind of around. Hopefully being synthetic, it's not going to melt the plastic. That does feel a lot smoother. Well, we'll see how that works. Don't see a whole lot else I can do here. There's no reason to vacuum or blow out the drive. There's really no dust in it. It's obviously it's got a tandem magnum division tag on the side. We want to keep all that as pristine as possible. The top assembly was, I think, a Tandy sticker. Now let's look at putting this back together. Sleeve set in like that. It just covers that cable up and had one screw holding it there, which was this screw. It's a little bit shorter than the other two. This cable was routed to come up through that slot like that. We then had the board. Quite sitting back as far as it should, and I don't know what it's hitting on. It's not hitting on that cable. So what are you... Well, that's as far as it'll go. Is there a slot that goes into? Let me yank it back out. Yes, there is. There's a tab here, and there's a slot in the metal that tab needs to go down into. And that's okay. Maybe it just went into it. There it went into it. Let's get all of these out of the way. And there it's set down into place, and the screw holes lined up. So now we know. We'll go ahead and remount the PCB. Even though these are turning into metal, I can see that on the tip of the screw down here, it's got it's a self-tapper in the end. And so I did just go ahead and turn it backwards till I felt it drop into the previous threads. Just like you do when you're turning screws into plastic, just so I'm not trying to cut fresh threads. Not 100% sure how that was routed, but it goes on there. That must be how it was routed. I just don't remember it having so much folded up underneath, but apparently it did. Well, we're going to call it good enough, and hopefully I didn't just break one of those wires. If I did, I'm screwed. And 9, 10, 11, 12, and 7. Feels just absolutely fine. I don't see a need to lubricate that action. Looks like I knocked that spring kind of out of kilter again. It's a spring that actually holds the little tensioning pad up against the drive head. I don't see any need to do anything else beyond that, honestly. Really don't. Let's just do that whole thing over again. The wire lengths are really tight for those. And this has kind of got to get lifted up over that SIP resistor. Once you know how to do it, board comes right out. Seeing little bits of metal. That's actually really rough moving. You can hear it making kind of sad noise. So let's go ahead and clean this up. Again, this head looks absolutely fine, but I'm really only able to clean part of the rod. I'm not able to get all the way around it, which is kind of sad, but it is what it is. The track 0 sensor's there. I don't want to bump it hard enough to knock it out of alignment, although it should be screwed down pretty tight. Again, just kind of general little bits of black ick have come off. We'll hit it all a second time. Obviously we're not getting all the way around, like I said, but I'm not going to try to remove them. Well, they look really, potentially pretty easy to remove, but I'm not going to do it. Not seeing a whole lot of dust in the drive, which is again kind of surprising. I'm not sure the direction of the airflow in the case, but it does pull in through the floppies or blow out through the floppies. It must be pulling in through the floppies. I mean, I don't know. I don't know which direction the airflow is without looking at the fan, but I expected there to be more dust in the drive than there is. Let's give this a little bit of oil. Hopefully this oil isn't a mistake and isn't going to dissolve the plastic. Now that's already smoother than it was. It's not making as much kind of grinding noise as it was before. That helped even more. Certainly not adding very much oil. It's a very light amount each pass. I'm hoping that gravity is helping to pull it down around. I think we're good. I like the fact that that little stopper actually screws down in. We'll put it in its little bag so we don't lose the spout. And so far, I'm really happy with this oil. Whether this is a good application of it, can't honestly say. Wow, that's a... what is that? That is from this sitting on top of that cable. Huh, I don't know exactly what that is beyond that's for the cable. It's kind of compressed up against this plastic. little spot there that doesn't want to come off, but that's fine. Wipe off the alcohol. Interesting, none of these screws are self-tappers. They're all three identical. Whereas in the other drive, two of them were self-tappers. That goes into that little slot right there, if I can get it to slide in. Doesn't seem to want to happen here. There it went. No, it didn't. There it went. Well, not much to service in these, just kind of a gentle cleaning. Why are you being so tight? We definitely know it goes on, or it should go on further than that. Maybe that's one of the pins has come out as the issue. Damn it. That is not what we wanted to have happen. Because now we're flirting with potential disaster. I need something to push that the rest of the way in. Like a resistor lead, or we just happen to have a few resistors laying here. Little shroud here. It's got kind of a messed up pin, or a retainer, one, you know, little plastic things that fold down and retain it. And I may have to actually replace it. There it went. Oh, and another one. There it pushed in. Wow. Did this one do the same thing and I just didn't notice? No. Do I have a tiny pick maybe? Press on all those and just make sure that they are seated. That's really too big. Such is life. Doggone it. Grab that one. Well, hopefully nothing's been damaged. The pick is way too big. I don't really have anything else laying around small enough to kind of get a feel in there, but I think we're okay. I guess we'll find out. The alcohol. I'm just wiping the metal part down here to knock some of the dust off of it. It wasn't really dirty. It was slightly dusty, but nothing too horrible, so I don't see a need to put it in a sink or anything. Now, this goes into the bay this way. The drives have to go in. This way? Yeah, it would have to be that way. Lid back on the isopropyl, maybe. There it goes. And for things like this, start all the screws first, then tighten. Because often tightening will kind of pull things around in a way such that screw holes don't want to line up. That was beautiful, not? Certainly didn't mean to drop it. You know, this seems incorrect to me. This goes into the case like so. These are 180 degrees out of where they should have been. Did I actually bend that when I dropped it? Oh, it's way too stiff to have been bent when I dropped it. Goes into the case this way. Problem with this is the screws don't line up. So that can't be how it goes in. Wow, really confused. I'm really confused why that is bent up so bad, because I did not bend that. It must have been bent by... That's stiff enough. I didn't do that. This hasn't been dropped in my memory. So which way do these go on? The power connector was towards the top. I just lined it up on the case. This is definitely the front. You can see by the screw where the paint's missing. I swear these were 180 degrees opposite that. Only one hole punched out. That has to be down. I must be remembering the drives. Those were definitely towards the top. I must be remembering in my head the way the front of the unit looked incorrect. I was thinking the LEDs and the lever were up high, but perhaps not. I guess I could look at the exploded view. But this is the only way logically that it can go together. It's just proving my memory to be faulty, which honestly is no surprise. I remember the top assembly sticker being up. I do remember that, saying exactly that, top assembly. So I'm pretty sure I have swapped. I'm not going to tighten these up. I'm just going to turn them most of the way in. I believe I've swapped the A and B drive. That was intentional. A tends to have the most use because it's the boot drive. So in my mind, this is a pretty good swap, and the hopefully least use drive will become the boot drive going forward. Well, this was a lot less exciting than I thought it might be. Now we can tighten up screws. They don't need to be super tight. Now I'm not going to mount this back into the main frame of the system, because right now the front bezel's off, and that means the face of the CRT is completely exposed. There's nothing to provide any kind of protection for the face of the CRT, and this extra weight, this is a heavy little unit here, would make it easier to drop that whole assembly, you know, that kind of thing, and I need to protect it. So this is really going to just be left standalone here. I guess that does make sense with the pulls. I don't know. I guess this is how it originally was, and I just don't remember me thinking the LEDs were up here. Yet I know the discs go in facing that direction. And a single-sided drive data is on the bottom of the disc. So yeah, that all makes logical sense. Just means my memory as always was faulty. But anyhow, hopefully that wasn't too boring. I'll see you in a future video.